Thank you, Zoom. So welcome everyone. Welcome back to our Transformational Feedback webinar series. And as the name suggests, transformational feedback, we want to give feedback to help people transform. That's what it's all about. Yeah, and so that's what we'll be discussing today. We had module number 1 last week. If you missed module number 1, then please go ahead and check it out on our YouTube channel. It's only 30 minutes. And module number 1 was all about being open to receive feedback yourself, because that's absolutely essential. If you want to be able to deliver good feedback, you must be really, really good at receiving it first. So take a look at that webinar. If you have any questions as we go through today, please pop them in, and let's have a little bit of fun in the quickest 30 minutes of my week. Sharing the screen here. Give me one momento. Fantastic. Ricardo, good afternoon, sir. Looking great as always. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So that's what we covered last week, being open to receive feedback. And there's a 4D framework that you can follow to help yourself be better at receiving feedback. Guys, if you missed that video, I really strongly recommend you take a look at it. It's a really simple framework that you can follow in order to receive feedback yourself. Right? Think about it. How can you deliver great feedback at a level 8, 9, or 10 out of 10 if you're only a 3 out of 10 to receive it? It doesn't work. It's not congruent. It's not authentic. It's not aligned. So as you increase your number to a 7, 8, 9, or 10 to receive feedback, your ability to deliver it will be much, much more authentic and powerful and genuine and transformative. Otherwise, the other person's just going to sit there and go, yeah, right. Yeah, you can't take it. Why should I be listening to you? So take a look at that if you missed it last week. Today, module number 2, before the feedback with INSPIRE principles. I think those of you that know me, I like these little anagrams to help us kind of remember stuff and keep it simple. So that's what we're learning today, is the INSPIRE principles. Next week, right, once we've done module number 1 and today's module number 2, then you're ready to deliver the feedback. So make sure you mark your calendars, same day next week, same time, Tuesday, 12 o'clock. Make sure you mark your calendars for next week's session. This is where we begin to bring it all together. And then on the final week, what to do after delivering the feedback, right? Do you deliver the feedback and just run away? No, there's some support and follow-up that you can do to ensure best practices. So here we are today, before the feedback, right? So let's do this together. Before the feedback, align with your INSPIRE principles. Now, just at the very fundamental, guys, remember, we're giving feedback because we want the other person to improve, not to make them feel bad, not to make us look better. The only reason that we should be giving feedback is to help the other person improve, whoever that is, whether you're giving feedback left or right or up or down or whichever direction. It's because you want the other person to improve, or you want the collaboration that you're doing with the other person to improve, if you're working on a project together, for example. So, you know, this INSPIRE, it is an acronym. At the end of the day, if that's too complicated, just remember that as you're about to deliver feedback, you want it to inspire the other person, right? It's not to make them feel bad. It's not, you know, feedback has such a bad reputation that it's awkward, that it's uncomfortable, that it's negative, that there's all this like emotion around it. And well, it does not have to be, right? Inside of your organization, if you're a leader of a team or a bigger leader of an organization, you want to get to a place where feedback is the norm, where open adult conversations are the norm. So before you deliver your feedback, we're going to align with INSPIRE. So I is information, N is neutral, S is safe, P for permission, I is intent, R is real time, And finally, E is expectations. So quite a few words there. Let's take a look at them step by step, and I will guarantee it will make sense. Guys, you know, I don't like just like words and fluff. I like sharing information that is practical and that is relevant and that works. So let's take a look. Inspire. So I is inspire. Gather all the correct observational data, right? The information and the data that you need to prepare before you start delivering your feedback is what have you observed, right? What specific data, what is the truth of the situation that requires you to deliver the feedback? Now, right here, I'm not talking about assumptions. I'm not talking about an opinion. I'm not really talking about your emotion. I'm talking about information and fact and data. And you need to gather that as some kind of evidence, if you like. So when you present it to the other person, there's less likelihood that they will resist or reject or come up with some kind of reasons or what I call excuses or excusicitis, right? So if you do not prepare, if you do not gather the correct information and data, most likely the receiver of the feedback will come up with excuses and reasons. So make sure you do your homework and gather the correct information, data, and fact. Yeah, not what he said, that she said, that they saw that person do. That's not going to work. Yeah, cool. Neutral. Oh, this is so important, guys. Ensure that you, the person about to deliver the feedback, is emotionally neutral, right? Not angry, not frustrated, and that ensure that when it's time to do it, just be real, be authentic, right? When it's time to deliver the feedback. Now, let me let you in on a little secret here. The most of the reason why delivering transformational feedback does not work is because as the leader, for example, we should deliver feedback and we don't. And we're very creative. We come up with these reasons why we don't give feedback. And so we don't do it. And then some time passes and we should deliver feedback and we don't. And then we should deliver feedback and then we don't. And then finally, one day, that subordinate, that team member, they do something that just pushes us over the edge. And then what happens? Boom, we snap. And then we're the ones that get angry. And we say something like, right, you come into my office now. I'm gonna feedback you. Well, clearly with that kind of anger and frustration, the other person is going to get in a totally defensive and closed mode. Like now they're just worried about survival, all right? So you're not going to be able to have an adult conversation. So the reason why we get emotionally charged is because we wait too long and we let it build and let it build and let it build and then snap. So please don't do that, and do your best. Whatever you need to do, take some deep breaths, listen to some calming music, meditate if you need to, do whatever you need to do to manage your own emotional intelligence. Keep it neutral, and if anything, a slightly inspired kind of tone or energy, because you know that the feedback is designed to help them improve. Yeah? Cool, cool. Any questions, you know, to pop them into the chat box. S in inspire is safe. So what do we mean by safe? Well, opposite of the example that I just gave, where you start the feedback session full of anger and frustration, that is not safe. That's going to be a one-way conversation that is going to be very non-productive. So instead, you want to ensure a safe and a private space so that the feedback can be well received. And we call this in leadership circles now psychological safety. So you need to create this environment that is private, right? So clearly we don't deliver any kind of feedback when there are other people around, right? Because they'll be uncomfortable. They will feel, judged or perhaps criticized by the other person. It might start some kind of gossip. Oh, did you see Mary? Mary's talking to the big boss. Oh, she's in trouble. She's in trouble. Mary did the wrong. No. So you want to make it nice and private, and you want to create an environment that is psychologically safe. So what do we mean by psychological safety? Psychological safety is a belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, for asking questions, for sharing concerns, or maybe even admitting or talking about some kind of mistakes. So in fact, as a leader, you want to create an environment that supports or encourages your team to speak up with ideas. They feel open and safe and happy to ask questions. They're not worried about, they ask a question and you go, what a silly question. You should know the answer to that. That is not psychological safety. That is humiliation. That's judgmental, and it might feel like some kind of punishment. You want them to share their concerns, right? If you're doing some kind of brainstorming and you're coming up with some action plan, and someone feels a little bit uneasy for whatever reason, they have some kind of concern that maybe you don't know that you don't know is a thing. Well, you want them to speak up, right? To share their concerns, because now you have the proactive ability to be able to proactively solve those concerns or address those concerns through adult conversations. And you don't want to wait 1, 2 weeks, 3 weeks until the mistake that they made suddenly jumps up like air. No, you want them, if they do make a mistake, you want them to feel safe enough to go, gok, 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 gok. Boss, have you got a couple of minutes? I think I just messed up, and I need to talk to you about it now. That's what we mean by psychological safety. So there are multiple areas of your leadership where you can implement psychological safety, and delivering transformational feedback is absolutely one of them. Especially as you get towards the end of the feedback, you want to encourage them to take some new kind of actions that will improve their performance or behavior. So you need to be inspiring. You need to support them to explore the things that they don't know, that if they did know, can help them improve in their behavior and their performance. Yeah. So super important. And this is what you're doing. Remember, you're delivering feedback because you want them to transform and improve. So psychological safety is supporting your team from their comfort zone, which is the things they already know, right? Outside of their comfort zone through to the growth zone. And there can be some fear in the beginning, some uncertainty, things that they don't know that they don't know. They're in new territory. So it's kind of like you're saying, hey, come on out here, outside the comfort zone. This is where the magic happens. It's beautiful out here. Please come and join me. It's safe, right? So that's, and by the way, that continual expansion of the comfort zone, that's what you want for your team. That's what you want for the individuals in your team. This is how you're going to support them to grow to the next level. And of course, it's ongoing, because we're always going to reach a new level and then a new level. So that journey is continuous. Yeah. All right. So we've covered I and N, S, and now we're up to P. So P, and if you only remember one of these letters here in Inspire, this is super, super important. Ask permission for straight talk before delivering the feedback. All right, so let me clarify here a little bit. You would have gathered your data and information. You would have done all that kind of pre-work first before delivering the feedback. You've arranged your nice, safe space in a time and time and a location that they feel safe, that is appropriate. And then you're about to deliver the feedback, but just before you do that, you seek permission first for a straight talk before the delivering the feedback. This ensures a much higher likelihood that the feedback is actually heard and received by the other person. Now, here's a couple of statements that you can use, which are really, really simple. It is fully aligned to creating a psychologically safe environment. And you could simply say something like, Mary, do you have a few minutes for a straight talk? Or, may I share some quick feedback with you? Or, I have something on my mind. Is it okay to share openly? Or, permission to speak directly. Now, it literally only takes a couple of seconds to ask these questions, but here's the magic, guys. 99% of the time, when you ask permission first, the other person says yes. And when they say yes, guess what? Now they are open and ready to receive what you need to say. Now, if, for example, it's a very, very sensitive area, then you might even ask permission twice. For example, if you were giving feedback or about to give feedback to your boss or your wife, which are the same, by the way, for us gentlemen, if you're about to give feedback upstream, then you might say something like, hey, boss, do you have a few minutes for a straight talk? And they say, yep, come in. And you might say, well, boss, just to double check, are you absolutely sure that now is a good time and then permission I can speak openly and frankly, for example? And when you say that the second time, they'll go, yeah, please come in, sit down. They're going to close their laptop and then you have 100% of their attention. Yeah, and then you're able to deliver the message. And next week, I'm going to share with you a structure on then how to deliver that message. Yeah. So whether it's, if it's a sensitive area with your kids or your partner or whoever, you may want a double layer of permission, right? Just for extra safety for you and for the other person. Is there another word for straight talk? Yeah, you might simply say permission to speak directly, or, one of these 4 options here or something similar to that would absolutely work okay. Yeah, so just mix and match, Irene. Do you have a couple of minutes to sit down with me? I have something on my mind, right? So it depends a little bit on the person you're about to deliver the feedback to. You might know that they're already quite open to receiving feedback. So this last one might be the best. Someone who appreciates direct communication. You say, hey, permission to speak directly, Fred? And they'll say, bring it on. Yeah. Now, if you know that they're a little bit sensitive, then you might take a little bit more time and say, hey, do you have a few minutes? We can go grab a coffee. I've got something on my mind that I'd like to bounce off you, right? So there's quite a few ways where you can soften it. The point being, you need to get them to say, yes, I'm ready to receive whatever you have to say. Now, there might be 1% of time when you ask permission and they say no. Right? I say that to my wife often. Coach Christy, my wife, she knows coaching very, very well, and she's very, very good at feedback. And she will absolutely ask permission. Honey, can we sit down for a minute and have a talk? And if I know what it's about, it's not that I'm trying to avoid it, because I know she's going to tell me at some point. Yet, I don't know, I might be about to be jumping into a webinar session, or I might be about to having a coaching conversation or doing some kind of workshop or whatever. And it's just not the appropriate time because I'm about to do this thing that I need to be fully focused on. So I'll say, well, not just now. And then, so you know what you say if someone says not now, then you simply respond, right? There'll only be 1% that say no. Then you simply say to them, when would be a good time within the next 24 hours? When would be a good time within the next 24 hours? And then you let them say what they say, and then you lock it into the calendar and you clarify and verify your understanding. So if I understand correctly, you're open to have a direct conversation at 4 p.m. tomorrow. Is that good for you? Fantastic. Okay, I'll send you the meeting invitation. Boom. Yep. And so that's how you deal with that. Now, remember, when they say yes, now they're going to be open to receive your message, right? And you can literally say whatever you want after that once you have their permission. So you are respecting the psychologically safe environment. You're double checking that now is the good time, and they're going to be much more open to receive it. Cool, cool. Next one. Intent. So having an intention. So you've got to ask yourself, why am I delivering this feedback? And hopefully your answer is that your intention is to help the other individual improve, either for their individual performance or behavior, or as part of their behavior within the team, right? So that's your intention. There should be no other reason why you're going to give them feedback. If it's to make you, look good, then that's not the correct reason for feedback. If it's because you want to kind of keep them under some kind of control, then that's not a good reason to deliver the feedback. If it's to stroke your own ego and help you have the authority, then that's not the best intention for delivering your feedback. So remember, your team are on the journey with you, right? And so your intention must always be to support them to improve. So you want to kind of take those unsaid things in the background, especially when you put it off and put it off and put it off, and then boom, your intention is to share this feedback in a practical manner to help the other person improve, thereby helping them improve individually, helping your team improve as a collective, and then driving the business forward to better support your customers. That's your intention. There should be no other intention to give feedback. Cool. And as always, guys, if you have any questions, pop them into the chat box, please. R in inspire is real time. So you want to be able to deliver the feedback ASAP, as soon as possible, as soon as practical, right? Because sometimes the needs of the business, prevent you from doing it right now. Okay, here's a question. Answers in the chat box, please. Typically, on average, how long do you think a normal feedback session should last? Put your answers into the chat box, please. On average, what's the average amount of time that it should take to be able to deliver transformational feedback? What do you think? Pop your answers into the chat box, please. We'll get some answers. 15 minutes, 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Yeah. What if the other person insists on being so busy that they don't have time to talk with me? Will he or she be intentionally avoiding the conversation with me? Yes, Pung, that's going to be that 1%. So then you say to them, when would be a good time for you within the next 24 to 48 hours, right? And then you let them decide. So, because, people do get busy, right? Let's be realistic here. Sometimes in the middle of a whole lot of stuff going on. Now, obviously, some people, they don't want to hear it, but chances are they've just been conditioned in such a way because their previous bosses or people that they worked with were toxic, did not respect psychological safety, and so now they have some kind of fear around it. So it's going to be up to you, the leader, to rebrand feedback as being a positive transformational experience, which will take time, right? So you will need to work at their pace. So how long should feedback take? Well, you do need to work at their pace. And I'm going to say on average, especially when you talk about the specific actions they're going to take in the future, right? Just delivering the feedback itself is only half the puzzle. The other half of your delivering the feedback, which we're going to cover next week, is focusing on the change of behavior in the future, right? And that's the part that can take a little bit longer. So I'm going to say on average, you can do it within 15 minutes. Yeah, some might be a little bit longer, especially if you've not had a feedback conversation with that person in a long time. Some emotions might bubble up, and so you'll need to be more calm and more cool and take a little bit more time. They might be very reactive, right? Where they are trying to say, that's not true. And then so you will need to calmly be able to deal with that. And that's where that information, fact, and data is going to save you. So I would aim for 15 minutes, right? And then in the beginning, you might allow yourself 20 minutes or even a little bit longer. And then over time, guys, once you create a culture of open dialogue and mature adult conversations, you should be able to get it down to 10 minutes or even less, right? And in an ideal situation, yeah, 1 or 2 minutes, I've seen it, I've experienced it, and it's beautiful. It's lovely. When you can get to that point of very direct and open communication, which, by the way, will only happen if the two parties have mutual respect for each other. Yeah. Cool. So 15, yeah, it depends on the subject. Yeah, rebrand. Salita, thank you. That's the key, expressing the fact that the feedback is always an opportunity for growth. So that's got to be your intention, guys. Your intention is not to make them cry. If that happens, that might happen, and that's okay, but that's not your intention. Your intention is to help them to grow, to transform to the next level. Cool? So yeah, ensure the straight talk. So when you ask for permission, you might even say something like this. Permission for a straight talk. I noticed you've got 15-minute window. Would that be okay for you now? And they say, yep, sure, come on in, right? So you can kind of pre-frame how long the conversation is going to take. Cool. Moving on. And then finally, the E in inspire are expectations. So be sure that when you're preparing to deliver your feedback, and this is a little bit of pre-work that you will do beforehand, clearly be able to identify and share your expectations with them to help them to transform. So in other words, think about it like this. If, as we mentioned before, something happens with their behavior or performance, we should give feedback and then we don't. And we should give feedback and we don't. And we should give feedback and we don't. So what's happening is they're doing something that is outside of your expectation. We fool ourselves to think that we think that, oh, they should know what we expect. Let's remove that assumption. Let's remove that mind read. And instead of assuming that they know what we think, why don't we just clarify and verify by sharing with them what our expectations are? Right now, we're going to cover this a little bit more on next week's session, but you need to be thinking about it before the feedback. And you can simply write a bullet point list of what are your expectations of this person. Is your expectation that they are at the office at 9 o'clock sharp, for example? Is your expectation that they deliver the report on time? Is your expectation is that they do this by then, right? Just don't have any assumptions that they should know how to do this, or they've been working here for 10 years, they should know better. Just delete that, because that's just going to weigh you down, and it comes across very judgmental and critical. Even though it might be true, let's just imagine for a moment that they don't know what your clear expectations are. So towards the end of the actual delivery of the feedback, you'll share your expectations, which we'll cover next week, but do your pre-work first and just write down what are your expectations of that individual in their specific job role and their job function, and prepare that in advance before the feedback. Why? This will make the actual feedback much more efficient, much quicker and much more valuable and transformative, because you've taken what your expectations are and you've been able to express them out loud. You see, most anger and frustration in the workplace happens because of unfulfilled expectations. But the root cause is we've never expressed those expectations to other people. And I'm talking in a 360, expectations of your boss, of your co-worker or projects people, and your subordinates. So in delivering the feedback next week, you'll have that in your conversation. Just make sure that you prepare it in advance. Question: shall we include a third party as a reference in the feedback? I know it's not ideal, but the info and facts sometimes provided by other people. Great question there, Temsri. I would say try to avoid it if you can. And if you need to, it should generally be someone in a HR role, right? Because HR, in theory, should be neutral. If you're bringing in someone else, they might feel that you're ganging up on them. So if you have a feeling that it's a very sensitive issue or it's a big problem, then for your own protection and the company's protection, then you might bring someone from HR in to just be a neutral observer in the situation. Now, you're going to do your best before that, right? Module number 1, you're going to be open to receiving feedback yourself, which you're going to continue to improve. Module 2, you're going to prepare. Then you're going to follow the steps that we outline next week. Is honest response better than straight talk? It really depends on the person receiving the feedback, right? What I would recommend is when you're asking that permission phrase, try a few different ones and simply simply use the one that feels more natural and authentic for you. Right? And even what you might want to do, guys, one of the best tips I can give you, which will be probably more related to next week, do a role play with a trusted colleague or a friend or someone you really, really trust before you have the big feedback conversation. Right? There's no better way to prepare for delivering feedback than to do it as a role play with a trusted friend or colleague. Not the person you're going to give the feedback to, so someone else, obviously. And you get them to play that role, and then that can be a very, very effective way. So just simply try what works for you. Yeah? Cool. Any other questions, guys? If you have any questions, pop them into the chat box. I told you 30 minutes goes so quickly. And while you're writing those questions down, please come and join us for our NLP Leadership Certification Program. It's a 4-in-1 certification, including coaching, on the 7th to 11th of July. Join us face-to-face in Bangkok. Join us virtually from anywhere in the world. We have a super special offer for you for our webinar friends. 50,000 baht, or you have a 5-month payment plan. And if you're looking to accelerate even more, then please come and join us for our ICF Leadership Coaching Certification Program. ICF is the world's largest coaching authority. You can join us virtually on 16 to 17. There's a bit of pre-study. You join us live virtually for 2 days, and then there's some online group coaching. Or if you're in Bangkok, join us from number 14 to 17 for 4 days in the hotel. Special investment, 55K or a 5-month payment plan. So ladies and gentlemen, wow, the quickest 30 minutes. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Great to see some familiar faces there. Michelle, Saniva, Tensri, Adrian, wow, Ricardo. Thank you all so much. Stay amazing, stay awesome, and see you next week. Tell your friends and see you there. Ciao, ciao.